do, compassion and maybe helping them. But if we never notice in the first place, we never go down that road. And this is the problem with attention today. It's under siege. I think the moment I knew we were in trouble was a while back before I started writing the book, Focus. I was on my way to a meeting. I was driving. I live out in the country in New England. I was late, but I was wanting people there to know I was coming. So as I was driving, I was texting them on my way. That's rather horrible, because it turns out, as I read not very long after that, that texting while driving is the same as drinking while driving. It's really bad. In fact, in my state, it's outlawed now. Another thing I've noticed is when I was writing the book, I'd be kind of on a riff, really in flow, writing well. Then I'd have to look something up. So I go to Google Scholar. I love Google Scholar because it gives you access to the academic database. So I open my web browser, and my web browser presents me with the news of the day. And I'm a news junkie. So all of a sudden I start reading news stories, and before I know it, I've been lost, 15, 20 minutes has gone by before I realized that, oh, I was supposed to be looking that up. And today, we're all in the same boat, in that the tools that we use, our computer, our phone, and so on, are also devised to interrupt us, to seduce us, to draw our attention from this to that. And usually under that is trying to sell us something, a pop-up ad or whatever. But attention is besieged in a way that has never been true before. When I was going around to publishers and telling them I wanted to write about attention, one publisher said to me, "That's wonderful. We'd love to have that book, but could you keep it short?" So what happened to us? In 2007, Time magazine, a major American publication, had a small article that said there's a new word in the English language. The word is pizzled. It's a combination of puzzled and pissed off. And it refers to the moment when you're with someone who takes out their BlackBerry and starts talking to someone else and ignoring you. In 2007, that was unusual. But the word pizzled has died with the BlackBerry, because now that's the new social norm. You go out to a dinner, very romantic restaurant, you see a couple together, and they're both looking at their phones instead of into each other's eyes. Something has happened to us. In 1977, Nobel Prize winner Herbert Simon wrote, very prescient, he said, "Information consumes attention. Hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention." I think we've entered a time when we're in danger of attentional impoverishment. And the signs of it are more than, a couple looking at their phone instead of into each other's eyes. The other day I saw a mom holding a little toddler, and the toddler's trying to get her attention, and she's busy texting. She's just not available. And, of course, Dad's the same story. I was on a vacation island last summer, Martha's Vineyard, off the coast of New England, and I was taking a taxi from the ferry to my house, and I happened to share it with 7 sorority sisters, college students, who were going for a weekend together. And we got in it was a shared taxi, a big van, and we got in the taxi, and within a minute or two, every one of the sorority sisters was staring into a screen, iPhone, iPad, but they weren't talking to each other. And I think this is a real loss. The ingredients of rapport are 3. The first is full mutual attention. From that full attention comes a second ingredient. It's a nonverbal synchrony. If you look at 2 people who are really in rapport, really connecting, if you were to make a video of that and watch it in silence, the 2 bodies look as though they're choreographed. This is something that's managed by a category of brain cell called oscillators. Oscillators govern how we respond to someone else, how we respond to physical objects. Oscillators are very important for the survival of the human species. Consider this. At the moment of a first kiss, they determine the velocity at which two skulls come together. And if they get it wrong, it would be the end of the, the species, I'm sure. The third ingredient, after the full attention and the nonverbal synchrony, is that it feels good. It's a rather pleasant, joyous state to connect with someone that well. These are the moments in our lives that are the richest, that really matter. However, recently there was an article in the Harvard Business Review called The Human Moment. It said, if you want to have real connection with someone, and if they come into your office, remember this: turn away from your screen. Article in the Harvard Business Review to tell us something like that. But it has come to this, because attention is a rarer and rarer commodity, but it's a very precious commodity. I think the time has come for us to take an active stand in our lives and fight back against this subtle onslaught. I know a couple, for example, who, when they come home, have a pact that they'll put their phones in a drawer. They won't look at them for the evening. There's a new way of getting together. I don't know if this has happened here in the UK, but in the States, for example, when people get together for dinner, everybody takes their phone out, puts it in the middle of the table, and the first person that reaches for their phone before the bill comes has to pay the bill. Now, there's not just one kind of attention. There's several varieties. The most obvious is selective attention, when we focus on one thing and ignore others. There are two main kinds of distractors, two general classes. One is sensory distractors. So if you're looking at me, you're probably not noticing this whiteboard here, right? That's relatively easy. The tough one is the second category. It's emotional distractors. Our emotional distractors are extremely powerful. They're thoughts about that conversation that didn't go so well, the tiff I had with my partner this morning, mostly relationship concerns, things that have upset us. So the more focused we are, the better we do at anything. It's rather obvious, but for example, a test of concentration among athletes predicts how well they'll do the next season. That's rather straightforward. And the less our mind wanders, or students' mind wander reading a text, the better we comprehend the text. However, it turns out, on average, while we're reading a book, our mind wanders about 20 to 40% of the time. I think it depends on the book. That particular study was done with Pride and Prejudice. If it had been done, say, with, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey or Blink or whatever, it might have been different. But the point is that the more disrupted attention is, particularly for young people, the harder it is for them to grasp, to build the cumulative mental models that amount to mastery in any subject. There are basically three modes of attention I want to call your attention to. And here's a schematic. So this is generally the relationship between performance. Say this is high, this is low. And this is the horizontal line is brain activity, particularly levels of stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline. And the relationship is very telling. It goes like this. It's an upside-down U. And the highest performance is when attention is absolutely